Hello, welcome to our information session. We're going to start in just a few minutes once everyone has had the opportunity to join the link. My name is Jordan and I'm an admission counselor here at Occidental. I'm joined by a few of my colleagues who are working behind the scenes today to help me answer questions in the chat box. So if you have questions, please let us know using the Q&A feature. There are also two Oxy students here with me today. I'm very stoked to have both of them. They will share a little bit about their experiences and will help answer your questions during the Q&A at the end. So again, we're just going to give it a couple minutes as people file in. Yep. So just a reminder to make sure that you think of any and all questions. You're going to get to see an overview of what we're talking about, but certainly if there's not something that we address, we want to make sure all of your questions are answered. So please, please, please use the Q&A feature. That is how you get in touch with us. All right. Okay, I think we are going to get started. Welcome again. My name is Jordan Brown. I'm Assistant Dean of Admission here at Oxy. I'm also an Oxy graduate from the class of 2013. I don't know where all the time has gone, but I'm super glad to have returned to Oxy a few years ago and have loved being part of the admission team, especially because the Oxy community inspires me so much, even more now than when I was a student. And speaking of students, I will now have them quickly introduce themselves. Jillian, do you want to start?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jillian. I am a rising senior biology major that's also pre-med. I was originally born in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but I spent most of my time overseas in Japan and China. Other than being a tour guide on campus, I'm also a choreographer for Dance Pro. I'm the president of Periodic Baking, and I do research in the bio and chem departments. Also, my cat is here, so if you're wondering why my arm is like awkwardly out to the side, it's because he's really needy right now and wants me to pet him.
Hey everyone, my name is JP Flores and I'm a rising senior from Santa Clarita, California. I'm a cellular and molecular biology major with minors in neuroscience and public health. I do research in the biology department and I'm on the baseball team at Oxy. I'm also the co-president for the Ocean Conservation and Sustainability Club and the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. I'm also a tour guide and games management assistant in the athletics department.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jillian and JP. We're so lucky to have both of you be able to share your experiences, especially with how involved you are in different parts of our campus community. Today, the students and I are going to be presenting on Oxy's academic and co-curricular experiences. I will then talk about the admission and financial aid processes. And finally, we're definitely going to end time with Q&A, so a reminder to use that Q&A feature. Even though we can't meet you in person today, I hope you leave this session with all of your questions answered. All right, so just some kind of grounding information. At Oxy, we believe that our liberal arts education, collaborative community, and our location in Los Angeles comes together to provide a college experience that you won't find anywhere else. While most other liberal arts colleges are located in rural or suburban settings, and most institutions in major cities are much larger, Oxy benefits from the best of both worlds, an intimate campus and community set in a vibrant and diverse city. Throughout this presentation, we're going to go over how the alchemy of our approach to the liberal arts, community, and location is really the best preparation for life after Oxy. All right, and I do think it's important, speaking of location, to do some grounding and framing of where we are. Today's information session includes attendees from around the country and world, so we want to make sure you first can get a sense of where Oxy is. Oxy is in the Northeast, Northeast Los Angeles, just about 7 miles from downtown. This is downtown in the distance. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse or not. And then the shaded part of campus, or the shaded area, is our campus. Even though it's just 2,000 students, the campus is 120 acres of academic and residential spaces for our students. There are multiple transportation options available to Oxy students to navigate Los Angeles. We have a bike share program that allows students to check out bikes for free with helmets and locks, and a student-run rideshare program called the Bengal Bus, because we are the Tigers. A little bit more on athletics later, and an expansive public transportation system. So the Bengal bus is actually a free service you can call on at Oxy to get a ride anywhere within 7 miles on a weekday and 9 miles on a weekend. It's totally free service with Oxy students as drivers. And then our public transportation system can actually get you all across Los Angeles, whether that means across town to Santa Monica to explore the beach or a quick trip downtown, which is just 3 stops away. Our immediate neighborhoods have plenty to explore as well. I'm a resident of Highland Park, one of the neighborhoods that Oxy's nestled in. So I'm very much an evangelist for Northeast LA. Highland Park and Eagle Rock is where most students frequently go when they're heading off campus. York Boulevard is particularly popular. It's right off campus, and I know as a staff member, I love being able to pop over to a coffee shop or a taco truck or do some shopping so close to campus. Highland Park was actually just named the 9th coolest neighborhood in the world by USA Today, sandwiched right between neighborhoods in Tokyo and Melbourne. You'll often hear Highland Park being described as hip and up and coming, and generally not so coded language for gentrification. While there is much to love about our changing neighborhoods, many Oxy students have rightly been vocal in pushing back against displacement in Northeast Los Angeles and being thoughtful about how we as a campus engage positively with Highland Park and Eagle Rock. Oxy Students Against Gentrification is one of the more active clubs on campus and does a great job promoting resources to help us all learn more about the neighborhood and how we can work in support of our community responsibly. And with that, Jillian, can you give a sense of kind of the ways that you engage with the surrounding neighborhoods?
Yeah, LA is great because it has so much food, and I love exploring cities and countries and cultures through their food. So there's so many different areas of LA that are specific to, say, like Little Tokyo, you can get really great Japanese food. Koreatown, you can get really great Korean food. There's really great Mexican food like everywhere in LA. And so I personally love just going out, trying new restaurants and eating really great food. And I also think if you're from, even if you're not from LA, but especially for me coming from Shanghai, it was really nice to find the neighborhoods that I love and remind me of home. And it kind of curbed the homesickness a little bit. So definitely check out the food scene in LA.
Oh, that's great advice, and I 100% agree. JP, do you have a favorite off-campus eatery?
This morning, I actually, for breakfast, listened to the Michelle Obama podcast and walked to Donut Friend. So if you're ever in this area, Donut Friend is awesome.
Yep, and Donut Friend is very close to Town Pizza, and I am a huge supporter of Town Pizza. So if you are in the area, make sure you check them out as well. All right. If you want to see more of campus in depth after this information session, I really encourage you to head over to our interactive map. It's map.oxy.edu. When you go to the website, it will take you to the list of locations, which you can use to click on buildings of interest. Or if you select the tab labeled tours, which is shown here, in the turquoise circle, there's a guided path through campus. So the campus tour is presented in the same order as if you were at Oxy with the tour guide and is accompanied by the same information about each building we show our in-person guests. You'll also find a video tour on the admission website, which is a great way to hear directly from our tour guides as they walk through campus spaces. We hope you will take advantage of either of these virtual tour options since we are unable to host you on campus currently. And also just a shameless plug for some of our other virtual resources. So if you head to the admission page of the Oxy website, we do have a lot of resources and there's going to be more to come in the coming weeks. So I definitely would encourage you to go back to those pages as well. All right, so here's some transactional information about who we are. About 2,000 students, 90% of our classes have fewer than 30 students. With classes this size, you'll find that students and faculty are equally engaged. Most classes are led by discussion and that students are expected to have something to say. Faculty have the advantage of knowing their students by more than just their name and are readily available resource outside of class as well. All of our classes are taught by professors. We have 0 graduate students, which is something great in terms of access to faculty and research opportunities, which we are going to talk about in a bit. But really what this slide kind of tells me is the kind of relationship-based culture we have because of the intimate academic setting. We really are able to get to know our classmates and faculty very, very closely. And with that, it's a good transition to talk a little bit about academics at Oxy. And I think we're gonna start at a pretty high level The most salient part of who we are is the fact that we're a liberal arts institution. And if you're anything like me, that can be kind of an abstract and nebulous term. So I'd love to kind of talk about that for a moment. Really at Oxy for us, it means that we want all of our students, regardless of what they major in, to develop as critical thinkers, analytical writers, effective communicators, able to relate to people of different backgrounds and different academic disciplines, again, regardless of what they major in. So that's something that is central to who we are as an institution. We also imbue a social consciousness in everything that we study at Oxy. So if you're a history major, you're going to look at primary source documents, but you're also going to be asked to think critically about which voices aren't represented in those documents. If you're a media arts and culture major, you're going to learn the technical aspects of film production, but you're also going to be asked to think critically about what voices aren't being represented there in media. And another kind of way to think about our education is with two words, breadth and depth. So that's how we ensure that all this happens. The breadth comes from the core curriculum. At Oxy, about a third of your courses are in the core curriculum. They are typically areas of study, and then within that area, you pick the class to fulfill the requirements. So I definitely like to emphasize the level of autonomy you have in picking that course. So for example, we ask students to take a course that focuses on material prior to the year 1800. That could be a Latin American art history course. It could also be an ancient Greek philosophy course. And those things are decidedly different, but still meeting the same type of requirements. So there is an extreme level of customization in terms of meeting these different distributions. There is in fact one course that every student is required to take if you're a first year. And that core program required course is our cultural studies program, which is our first year seminar. These courses focus on the research, writing, and analytical thinking skills that our students will build on throughout their 4 years at Oxy. Just like with the other core requirements, there are more than a dozen CSP courses offered each semester, and our first year students get to choose the topic they are most interested in. Faculty get to design these courses themselves, so they often end up being some of our most memorable courses. Jillian, do you want to talk about what your CSP was?
Yeah, I guess I hate to bring up food again, but both of my CSPs were about food. My first semester, I took a CSP called Jews and Food, and of the many great things I learned in the class, two experiences that stood out the most was one, we went to a really famous Jewish delicatessen in LA and we just ate really great food. And another experience was that our professor brought in a bagel maker, like a professional bagel maker. We learned how to roll bagels. So
That's
that
awesome.
was really fun. We also did essay writing in that class, so it wasn't just eating. But in my culture of food CSP, my second semester, they gave us a $75 stipend to go eat out around LA. And we learned about how music connects with food, sociology of food, as well as the cognitive science kind of aspect around food. And so that was a really great class just to eat a lot and also get better at writing as well.
That's awesome. I love that we already have a food theme going. So moving on, as I mentioned, a third of our courses are core courses. Another third are going to be in your major, and the final third are elective. So that means you can take whatever you want to at Oxy. That could be a double major. About 10% of our students do double major. We do offer 34 majors and 10 additional minors. The most popular majors at Oxy are economics, biology, diplomacy and world affairs, psychology and sociology, while smaller departments like critical theory and social justice, comparative studies and literature and culture, food studies, shout out to food again, or urban and environmental policy are programs that you won't find at any other liberal arts colleges. I also will do a shameless plug that just because a department or major is bigger, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better than some of our smaller ones. And I'm saying that from a defensive posture because I was actually a philosophy major and there were 5 philosophy majors in my graduating class. And I really think the kind of experience that I had was able to really get to know not only my fellow philosophy majors, but also the faculty in a really in-depth way. I know I took a class looking at David Hume's treatise on human nature with Professor Saul Traeger, who at the time was president of the David Hume Society. So that was absolutely a memorable experience. And I could tell you a lot about David Hume even to this day. So that's just a shameless plug to at least take one philosophy class in college, regardless of where you all end up going. Also regarding major, every student starts undeclared, so you do have 4 whole semesters to explore and take different courses before you do decide. You're allowed to change your mind, like I did 5 times. If you do know, however, what you want to study, you can start taking courses in your major from your very first semester. So again, we really do let you kind of structure your curriculum in a way that makes sense for you. Another really big part of the academic experience is thinking about where we're located. As one of the few liberal arts schools in any major city, Oxy utilizes Los Angeles as an extension of the classroom, and it's really the collision point of where theory meets practice. So very often, Los Angeles is going to be kind of the prism that you view the things that you're talking about in a classroom setting. So if you're an urban and environmental policy student, you're going to be thinking about housing issues, education equity issues through the lens of Los Angeles. So I think that's a really great way of kind of framing your education, your liberal arts education in a practical way. This image actually shows an economics class that visits the Port of Los Angeles to study US trade system. So this is just an example of the kind of field trips that your classes will take when you're a student at Oxy. And I guess, JP, do you want to talk a little bit about ways you've engaged with Los Angeles academically?
Yeah, of course. I mean, from a scientific standpoint, I'm a biologist by trade, but I did take a geology class because I am just that curious, right? And we were able to go to the San Andreas Fault and actually see different research sites along the fault and have our geology professor tell us exactly how research is performed at those sites, right? So I also have friends who are marine biologists that take our research vessel and they do scientific dives off the coast of Catalina Island. Right, we have the Anza Borrega and the Joshua Tree deserts where a lot of our ecology and geology classes also go. We have the Sierra Nevadas and Yosemite. And I just feel like because LA is so diverse, it's the perfect place from a scientific standpoint to go to school.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly from a humanities perspective, I think there's also a lot to glean as well. Obviously, there's a big artistic community. I remember one of my art history courses, we actually went to the Norton Simon Museum in Pasadena, and we got to see the works that we had previously looked at on slides and a projector in person. So there's definitely all sorts of ways that it's going to end up coloring your academic experience across different disciplines. So if you remember what I mentioned earlier about the 2 words to describe our curriculum, breadth and depth, the breadth comes with the core curriculum. The depth comes through the form of research and senior comprehensive. So the senior comprehensive requirement is a culminating kind of feature of every single major at Oxy. Most typically, it is like a thesis-like paper that you may present. For philosophy, I ended up writing a 40-page paper and presented it to philosophy faculty. And it was the most rigorous academic endeavor that I had at that point and prepared me super well for graduate school. Faculty asked me very rigorous questions that I was mostly prepared to answer, but it was definitely the kind of experience that I certainly learned a lot just about scholarship. So in addition to your senior comprehensive requirement as a form of depth, there's also, and JP mentioned this, there's a lot of research opportunities. So at Oxy, every summer, there's over 100 students that are actually compensated to do their own undergraduate research. It culminates with a symposium at the end of summer where they present their findings. In general, this is another merit of not having graduate students. All of our faculty as well are conducting their own research and are relying on our students to help support their own research endeavors. Jillian, I know you've been involved in research. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, research has been really amazing, and I like to talk about it kind of in 2 different camps that you can get involved in. You can be kind of like me, and my ultimate goal is to go to med school. I don't really want to do research as a career, but I absolutely love it and want to get super involved in it. So there's definitely labs for that. Or you can be more like JP, who's super involved in research, is thinking about pursuing his PhD. I won't steal his thunder, but he's doing some really amazing stuff. And so just an example of some of the work that you can do. For what I do in my 2 labs, I work in a neurobiology lab, and the overall project of the lab is to develop an alternative treatment to Parkinson's disease through stem cell transplantation. And in my organic chemistry lab, we are working on methods projects to synthesize molecules, as well as trying to create a total synthesis for a particular molecule that can be used in pharmaceuticals. JP's also doing some stuff more in like the environmental side, though not exactly. There's a really wide breadth of biology research, but also there's a really wide breadth of research just throughout Oxy as well. It's not just in the hard sciences. You can do research in the social sciences, humanities, DWA, art and art history. And so what I just want to emphasize is that it's super accessible. So many people do research at Oxy. It's so easy to get involved because every single lab is just like, yes, come join us. More people, all the people, the better. And it's just a really fun, welcoming environment where you can really dig down into a project, learn some techniques, and have some fun. And maybe prepare for PhD or maybe not.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad you emphasized the accessibility, because that's something where going into college, I was always interested in research, but it was like kind of woefully intimidated about how to actually go about doing it or what that entails. So I think that's really great that you mentioned, and that certainly was the case when I was a student as well. Study abroad is also a big part of the Oxy education. Last year, over 75% of Oxy students studied off campus, either through a semester-long program by conducting research abroad, or by taking a field trip abroad with a class. Students can study abroad from any major, even if they have a double major. Student athletes study abroad in as high numbers as any other students, which I think is a really important point. And there are programs during the academic year and during summer, winter, or spring breaks to make these opportunities accessible to everyone. All financial aid applies to study abroad as well, so students do not have to pay any additional cost for an international experience through Oxy's programs. Domestically, we do have two distinct Occidental opportunities. One is our UN program. The UN program is when you intern with the United Nations in New York. We allow 18 seniors the opportunity to do this during fall of their senior year. So you have a full-time internship, and then you also complete courses with Oxy faculty in the evening. It's really a signature program here at Oxy. And then the other distinct domestic opportunity is campaign semester, which is the only program of its kind in the US offered during every major election cycle. Students are given the opportunity to receive a full semester of credit for completing a full-time internship working on a campaign in a swing state, but also not from their home state. So we do have you look at a different geopolitical context, and then following the election date in November, our students come back to campus and process that experience and take a course with everyone else who is on campaign semester. So it's really an exciting opportunity for those students that are interested in electoral politics. Yeah, all right. So now we're going to transition and talk, move away from the academic experience and talk a little bit more about our community and what our community looks like. Oxy's first year class in 2019-2020 represents a range of backgrounds. 38% of the first year class is originally from California. So that means 62% are from other states or other countries. All of our Californians, we are equally split between Northern and Southern California. Racially, approximately half of our student population is white, while the rest are identified as students of color. Asian and Pacific Islander ethnicities, in the most broad sense, are the majority of our 45% domestic students of color population, while we are typically between 12 and 15% Latinx and 6 and 8% Black identifying students. Not only will you find people from different ethnicities at Oxy, but also different backgrounds when it comes to socioeconomics, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, and of course, geography. More than 17% of our students are international or dual citizens. In terms of the sense of community, a really big aspect of Oxy is community engagement. So when it comes to doing good in our community, being involved in our community, that's where we excel. Oxy is an incredibly service and action-oriented community. You will find this throughout the academic and co-curricular experiences. We have an office, the Center for Community-Based Learning, which incorporates service opportunities into the classroom. A recent example is when the Spanish department partnered with a local hospital to have all of their outpatient guides translated into Spanish. This provided an amazing educational opportunity for our students who were completing professional level translation work and learning a medical language, which is rarely taught in a foreign language classroom. It also had a benefit to the hospital, as they're now able to provide better care to a large portion of their patients. In addition to the Center for Community-Based Learning, we also have the Student Leadership Involvement and Community Engagement Office, AKA SLICE. That's a fun acronym. Connect students with community organizations for club projects such as tutoring or other direct service, we have our Martin Luther King Day of Service, which is an annual tradition where a number of members all throughout the Oxy community participate in a service opportunity to kick off the spring semester. I was actually involved with a group called Peer Health Exchange. That was a student group that goes into 9th grade classrooms and teaches health workshops across Los Angeles Unified School District. Jillian, do you have any community engagement sorts of things to say?
Yeah, actually the picture that's being shown right now is of two girls in my year who are both really great people working with Boundless Brilliance, which is an organization that aims to close the gender gap in STEM. I'm actually working with BB this summer as an intern, and we got to do a virtual summer camp where we connected with kids across the country, did science experiments together. Actually, I have two of them right here. This is when we made a model of our own blood, and this is when we made a model of our spine. And
awesome.
so I think like that's just one example of like a more STEM focused club where we just really want to get kids excited about science and want to show that anyone can be a scientist no matter what you look like, who you are, where you come from. And it's just a really great way that we engage with our local schools.
That's great. Thank you so much for that. That's so cool that you have the experiment right next to you. I also want to take a moment and talk about different sorts of support at Oxy. On campus, Oxy provides support for all students, both in and out of the classroom. Every student is assigned an academic advisor based on their academic interests. So this is when you declare your major, you actually select a faculty member in that department to be your advisor for the duration of your time at Oxy. But even prior to that, you have a faculty member who's your advisor while you're undecided. In addition to that, all faculty maintain regular office hours for students in their courses. Peer tutoring is also available across departments. So typically in the library, there's every single night, there's peer tutors that are available by department. So if you have a big econ test and you want to make sure that you get a little bit of help beforehand, you can meet with a peer tutor who's a student who's going to be an all-star in econ to help you get prepared for that exam. The Dean of Students Office provides individual responses and support for any students, student concerns, and the Disability Services team will ensure that all learning differences and physical needs are accommodated. Students have access to a range of non-academic support as well, which focuses on the holistic on-campus experience. For example, the Intercultural Community Center offers programming that serves to educate and bring awareness around issues of equity and justice, while also providing a safe space for students from diverse backgrounds. Emmons is our wellness center with a highly trained medical staff. I know we've been relying on them heavily in light of everything that's going on, and they're fantastic. We also have mental health counseling available through Emmons. And then Project Safe, for example, leads prevention and advocacy programs with the goal of eliminating sexual violence and fostering healthy relationships on campus. Another kind of support, and a big form of support, is through residential life. And it's part of what allows for the engagement that I mentioned earlier. So we are a residential college. You are required to live on campus for 3 years. That's a very big part of who we are. And for most Oxy students, it'll be their first time living away from home. For many, this is also their first time living with a roommate. The staff of resident advisors in each hall are dedicated to helping with that transition. There are weekly meetings for the entire residence community to gather, as well as fun programming throughout the semester to help build community. RAs also provide leadership and mediation to help resolve roommate conflicts and connect students with support outside of the residential community as well. And what you're looking at here is an actual double. So this is a room that houses 2 Oxy students. So you can get a general sense of what that may look like. Yeah, JP, do you want to talk about the residential experience?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my first year I lived in Poly Multicultural Hall, where I actually met Jill for the first time because she didn't live there, but she had lots of friends there. I loved that hall because I felt like it was a testament to Oxy's mission to provide an inclusive space for students of color. All right. My sophomore year, I lived in Norris Hall, where we were able to create our own theme. Our theme was community engagement, and I lived with 7 other baseball guys and 8 volleyball players. And in baseball's off season, we actually got to do a clinic for the Eagle Rock community and Oxy's community, and volleyball did the same thing when they were off season. Now I live in baseball house, which is right off campus, but I really miss living on campus because, with that 3-year living on campus policy, it was just awesome getting to know people because we were all in the same area, right?
Yeah.
We're not a commuter school, and it's just awesome having that opportunity.
Absolutely. I think students really enjoy being on campus because of all those opportunities and the sense of community that exists. And as JP noted, historically, we have required students to live on campus for 3 years and guarantee housing for all 4 years. The majority of students, over 80%, stay in the residence halls all 4 years. All right. One of my favorite things to talk about, clubs, organizations, and traditions. Oxy students are as engaged in campus life as they are in their classes. I've been affiliated with Occidental for over 10 years, and I don't know a single Oxy student who just goes to class. Every single Oxy student I've met over that time is involved in at least one other thing. Often that takes the form of clubs and organizations. Oxy has over 100 clubs and organizations, and if there's not something that we offer that you want to start, you can do that. So the opportunities are pretty open-ended. There are clubs generally that are dedicated to outdoor activities such as hiking or skiing, to community service such as tutoring or public health. There's different cultural clubs as well. Some of my favorite clubs, Foodies of Oxy, to go with our food motif for this info session. And there's also the Oxy Surf Club. So there's definitely a wide range. And I think in the chat, there's going to be a link to what sorts of clubs we offer so you can get a better sense if there's something that aligns with your interests. In addition to clubs and different student organizations, we also have Greek Life. 15% of Oxy students are involved in Greek Life, and we have both national and local fraternities and sororities, including academic and social organizations. As a result, being part of Greek organization feels really different at Oxy than it does at other schools. Rather than being the single group of people that students live with and spend time with, instead Greek Life becomes just one part of a student's community. Someone can be a member of a sorority and part of the soccer team and a member of the yearbook staff, for example. We also have gender inclusive Greek organizations as well. And in addition to Greek Life, we have a classical studies minor. That's a really bad joke. Okay. In terms of traditions, dance production is, in my opinion, the most notable. And I know that's Jillian's sweet spot. So I've set it up for you, Jillian. Just let us go to town on Dance Pro.
Yes, I love Dance Pro. It's the largest student-run club at Oxy. What I love about it is that it's all-inclusive. So it doesn't matter if you've never danced before in your life or whether you've been dancing since you were able to walk. You're totally welcome to join Dance Pro. It's all student choreographed. So the style that I do is like contempt fusion, but there's also hip hop, tap, Broadway. This year we had Bhangra Bollywood as well as Argentinian folklore. So there's a really broad range of styles that you can get involved in. We practice the whole year round, and then we have 3 showcases in March. Really excited for this year because even though we're going remote, we're still having Dance Pro. It's going to be all virtual. So it's going to be a little tuck and go, but I'm really excited. And what I love about Dance Pro is it really builds within the really strong Oxy community. I think all clubs do this. This is not just limited to Dance Pro, but just from speaking from my experience in Dance Pro, it really builds an extra strong, tight community of people from all different backgrounds, whether you're an athlete or you're in lab all the time, both, aka JP. You're totally welcome to join, and you meet people at Oxy just through the love of dance. And at the showcases, the environment is just so electric. It's so supportive, and people are just screaming, yelling. It doesn't matter if you fall on your face because your friends will be there. Your friends, your professors, your staff, your family that flies out will be there to be like, you know what? That fall looked really cool. And so I just love Dance Pro because it's just one of, I think, a really amazing club that you can, A, learn how to dance, B, meet people throughout Oxy, and C, even if you're not a part of it, you can support your friends and see a really cool show.
Absolutely. Go ahead, JP.
I just wanted to say she sold me on that. I think I'm gonna do it this year.
Oh, all right. We've got a public announcement that JP has committed to doing dance production. This info is being recorded, so it will live on. So let the record reflect that. Jillian, thank you so much for talking about Dance Pro. It's definitely one of my favorite weekends on campus. I really, really enjoy it. And now we can transition to one of JP's sweet spots, which is athletics. A little bit about Oxy Athletics. About a quarter of our student athletes participate on the varsity athletics team. We're a Division III institution and participate in the Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. Something that I think is really great, and I'm a former Oxy student athlete, is that all of the members of our conference are within about 90 minutes of where we're located. So you don't have to, sacrifice time away from research or class to still have really formal and competitive competitions. So that's something that I think is really great. We have a pretty rich tradition of athletic success. And in addition to varsity athletics, we have intramural and club teams as well. Ultimate Frisbee for men and women are both really, really successful as club programs. I'm a huge evangelist for intramural programs. I participate on a very mediocre staff intramural basketball team, which is also a highlight. And JP, do you want to talk a little bit about that experience as an Oxy student athlete?
Yeah, of course. From my student athlete experience, I love the D3 environment. Not only do I get to pursue my dream of becoming a medical research scientist, but I also get to play the sport I love at the collegiate level. I have friends at D1s where they're playing in huge stadiums with thousands of people they don't know, and all they do is practice 24/7, right? At Oxy or at my games, I look at the stands and I'll see my research lab, my professors and their families, the people I study with in my biochemistry class. After games, my professor will go, "See you in lab tomorrow," or they'll text me, they'll be like, "Hey, text me if you run into any trouble in lab tonight," because I usually run experiments at night and study in lab since I'm so busy during the day. But I think it's really cool. I mean, it's an incredibly supportive and comfortable environment on my team, and quite frankly, everywhere on campus. We don't care about what class year you are. If you're a first year, you're treated like a senior, which I love. My best friends my first year were seniors, and it truly helps my experience. The athletic community is really close, right? My best friends are on other sports teams like soccer, volleyball, water polo. I visited my friends in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington because we're just so close. And I just feel like athletes want to be immersed in the community as a whole. Like I have a bunch of friends I'm really close to from my classes as well. So I'm not just friends with my team. It's really the whole Oxy community, and I feel like we're a big part of that. That was long-winded, so sorry.
No, that was great. I'm really grateful for you sharing your experience, and my experience definitely mirrored a lot of what you were talking about as well. All right. So really, what does all of it add up to? And this is the slide that shows. So right. So Oxy grads go on to work equally in the for-profit sector as the nonprofit sector. We do a particularly good job with graduate school placement. In a recent survey of Oxy grads between 5 and 10 years out, 70% had attained a graduate degree. We have students that go to graduate school in any number of disciplines. Growing up, I simply never thought that I would have friends that were pursuing PhD programs. And now I couldn't even count on one hand how many friends I have from Oxy that are pursuing PhDs currently. So that's something that I think is really cool. You can see the list of employers of recent Oxy graduates. I definitely want to call out NASA and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which is located in La Cañada, about 15 minutes from campus. It's literally doing out of this world research. But anyway, I knew a student who was able to go part-time during their senior year and have an internship at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And then they were offered a job at the time they graduated and work there currently. And obviously only something like that comes about, again, because of where we're located. So that's just another real virtue of where we are. And right now we're going to make the big jump to switch to talking about admissions and financial aid, and make sure that we have time at the end to answer some of your questions. Regarding admissions, the most important thing to know is that we are a common application school, commonapp.org, one application, several hundred member schools, so really meant to be easier for all of you. The next most important thing to know are the deadlines, which are displayed on the screen right here. Something that I want to call out is early decision. Early decision is binding, so it's really only a good option if Oxy is the place that you know you want to be next fall. About a third of our incoming first years end up being admitted through the early decision programs. Those deadlines are November 15th and February 1st. You'd find out about a month later whether or not you're admitted. And if you are admitted, then you are coming to Oxy, which is really exciting. Regular decision has a January 10th deadline. You'd find out if you're admitted sometime in March and then have until May 1st to decide. That's the way that the majority of students apply, are admitted, and enroll. An important update for this cycle is that we are in fact test optional. We understand that access, safety, and reliability of these tests is all in question in light of everything that's going on. So you do not need to submit standardized test scores for this upcoming cycle. So that would be for seniors. In terms of how we evaluate applications, we practice something called holistic review. So we really look at all the components of an application in concert with one another. We don't have any sort of algorithm with if your GPA is this and your test scores are that, you're in or you're out. We really are looking at the entirety of the application. With that being said, we do privilege the transcript above the other portions. And when we're looking at your transcript, we're looking at it in a much more nuanced way. So we're not just trying to find where your GPA is. We're paying attention to the trend of your grades. We're also looking at the nature and rigor of your coursework. But I also want to emphasize that we very much look at students within the context of their own learning environment, knowing that course offerings vary from school to school, as well as grading systems and things like that. So we very much are looking at you kind of within that own educational context. We also pay attention to what you're involved in outside of class. There's an activity section of the Common Application. I encourage students to be exhaustive. I think many times students maybe sell themselves short with all the things they're involved in. It's where you could put if you're involved in student government, if you're president of a club, those are maybe the more intuitive things to include, but I also want to emphasize that there's some less intuitive things that you absolutely should feel comfortable putting in the activity section, like if you have a part-time job or if you care for a family member, those are definitely things to include as well, just ways you spend your time outside of class. We also take your writing very seriously. I personally love reading essays for college. It's one of my favorite things, and I've read thousands. My best advice is to really have an essay that sheds light on an aspect of your identity that's really important to you or conveys part of your personality in a way that isn't otherwise demonstrated in the application. Your essay doesn't need to be a relitigation of all of your achievements and things you're involved in, but rather a reflection that sort of humanizes who you are, knowing that there's very few kind of human components in this process. So that's my best advice for the essays. Testing, again, is optional. We require 2 teacher recommendations for first years. So that would be from a core academic subject. So math, social science, foreign language, English, natural and physical sciences. And again, we do look at all this information in concert with one another. We're also encouraging students to interview. Interviews they're live now because we are in August. You can sign up online and they may be with an admission staff member, they may be with a student, or they may be with our small army of alumni volunteers. So those are some admissions things. Financial aid, I want to emphasize that there's 2 kinds of financial aid. There's merit-based financial aid and need-based financial aid. For merit-based financial aid, you don't need to do anything extra. By virtue of applying to Oxy, you'll be eligible for all of the merit awards that we offer. Typically, this is looking more closely at a student's academic profile, so transcripts, quality of writing, maybe testing, sense of intellectualism that's shining through in the application. But we do offer some merit awards that are designed for students with strong records of leadership and service. So that's another reason why it may be in your interest to be exhaustive in the activity section with the kinds of things that you're involved in. For need-based financial aid, Oxy does meet 100% of a family's demonstrated need as determined by the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, as well as the CSS profile, which is on the College Board website. From those 2 forms, we determine a family's expected contribution, and we're committed to meeting the entire difference with the financial aid award. So over 70% of Oxy students receive some form of need-based financial aid. You would find out your entire financial aid award with your offer of admission. If you are curious about what the cost may look like, I would encourage everyone to use our net price calculator. The net price calculator is a federal mandate. So actually any school that receives federal funding that you're looking at is going to have one of those on their website. And it can be a really good resource, again, in kind of having a general sense of cost. But we're very much committed to socioeconomic accessibility. About 20% of our students receive federal Pell Grants, which are grants reserved for lower income American families. So we very much are committed to access. And with that, we're going to transition and talk or answer questions. Yeah, great. All right, let's start with a question from Izzy. And JP, you can go first, and then Jillian, feel free to chime in. What is Oxy like on the weekend?
Can Jill go first on this one? I need to think.
Okay, yeah, do that.
Yeah, I would say it's whatever you want it to be. So if you want to go out, hang out with your friends, party, though I won't say that, but if you want to do that, and that you're totally welcome to, and there's definitely opportunities too. If you're like me and you're boring and you don't really go anywhere, then you also have a lot of friends. You can find people on campus that will just hang out with you, study in the library on Saturday night, that kind of thing. There's a lot of club events that go on over the weekend. So for example, the Chinese Student Association puts on like a Lunar New Year festival when it's that time of year. Dance production rehearsals are on weekends. So I think it's really, you'll find something for you, and you'll find a group of people who will want to do what you want to do.
Beautifully said, beautifully said. Yeah, as far as like the weekends, it is what you make of it, right? We are in LA. You have the beach. I love hiking and climbing, and we have a plethora of different mountain ranges and deserts near campus or in Southern California. And just like Jill said, some Friday nights, Saturday nights, I will be in lab till 3 a.m. Sometimes I'll be in the library studying. I've actually seen Jill studying in the library at like 3 a.m. in the morning. So it's really what you make of it. And there's just so much to do in LA that having the option and the versatility is awesome. It makes LA such a cool place to be in, and going to Oxy that much better.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so this is a multiple part question, but I guess let's just in a general sense, let's say, Jillian, how would you describe housing on campus?
I really like the housing on campus. I would say it's a really great place to find a lot of friends. JP mentioned Polly and meeting him in first year. That's so absolutely true. I lived in a dorm called Stewie, but I ended up making a lot of friends in Poly. And so I would just hang out there like almost basically every single night. And I would just do my homework, hang out with them. One of my friends had an Xbox, so they hooked that up and they play FIFA, and I would try and never win. But that's kind of like the vibe that you get, I think, in most dorms, is that you just get to meet a lot of new people, especially in the first year halls when everyone is really excited, really wants to make friends. And then afterwards, when you become an upperclassman, you can kind of choose your own little community that you want to be in, but at the same time, you're not isolated. You still have a lot of people that you can meet.
Right. I mean, I loved the housing because we got our own micro fridge and microwave and things like that. But I think the real awesome part of housing is that community that Jill's talking about, right? The fact that Jill can come over and she can just hang out with us, do homework with us, and just get to know each other. Again, Oxy being residential is just, I talked about this earlier, but it truly is special, right? Everyone at Occidental is really nice. Everyone's so welcoming and friendly, and even more so as first years. But the thing is it doesn't stop at the end of your first year, right? Like it stays with you until you're a senior. You know, like I said, my best friends when I was a first year were seniors. So the housing experience, honestly, like it was nice having ample space in my room, having that microwave, having that fridge. But really, the housing experience was made by the people I met and our community in general.
Awesome. Jillian, this next one's specifically for you. How do you think going to a small liberal arts school for a pre-med pathway is different from going to a larger school?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. I think one thing that you really get is attention, and not in like, I want the spotlight on me, but in the sense that like you really get to develop amazing relationships with your professors, so they will know you not just as a person in their class, as like a face, but they'll know your name, what you're involved in. One of my professors, he came and watched me in dance pro, then sent me an email that was like, oh, you look so bright on stage. It was awesome to watch you dance. And I was like, thanks, Gary. And that kind of thing. Also with like pre-health advising, there's like thousands less students to be talking to. So it's really easy to meet up with your pre-health advisor. I actually just met with mine yesterday and talk to them. In our case, it's a her because it's Kat Wang. Talk to Kat and get the personalized attention, and she'll also know who you are as well. I think the question asked about vet, there's also like other career advisors specifically for like, there's one pre-med and then there's one that's more general pre-health. So that's really useful. We also have the Pre-Health Student Association. So that's where you can meet other students that are interested in either the med route or the vet route or the dent route. And just in general, it's not competitive in the pre-med community at all. Like we're all here to help each other out. This goes for like every single class and major at Oxy as well. But since specifically we're talking about pre-med community, I know it can kind of have the reputation of being super cutthroat, but definitely not the case at Oxy. I have met so many pre-med people that's just like, let's study together. Can you tell me what you wrote in your essay for med school? Upperclassmen will share like how they studied for the MCAT. And it's just a really supportive environment. And I think at a bigger university, you wouldn't necessarily get that so easily. And so I think being at a small school has really allowed me to grow and push myself and be around a positive environment to do so.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's, I think, tying in another question, so I'll let JP add on. I guess, how would you characterize the academic culture and versus, collaborative versus competitive?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that I've seen Jill plenty of times in the library sitting at 2, 3 a.m. And the thing is she's not alone doing that. She has people, she has our mutual friends teaching her, organic chemistry, right? So when we say that it's collaborative, we truly mean it. It's not like people are, trying to compete with each other. It's more of like, I'm going to bring you on my boat and let's go through this together, right? I was doing an info session with Jill yesterday, and what really resonated with me was Jill was in a Spanish class. I'm sorry for telling your story, Jill, but she was in a Spanish class, and because it's happened to me too. She was in a Spanish class, and she didn't know anyone in there, right? But I think on the first test, someone sent out a Quizlet for the entire class saying, hey, this is my Quizlet. If you want to add something, go ahead. And I think that speaks volumes to what an Oxy student is like, the support, the willingness to just help each other, even though you're not asking for anything in return. That defines, in my opinion, what an Oxy student is, right? We're very motivated, community driven, and it's just not competition based. It's really not. Yeah.
That was definitely my experience as well. And there was another part of the question that we already answered, but it was about food. So I think we need to just kind of put a ribbon on the food topics. So Jillian and JP, if you want to talk about food on campus and what the food is like, I know I have my own thoughts. Jillian, do you want to start?
I love the food. It's so good. I miss it so much. I'll just really quickly give a shout out to, one thing that you really need to know is that at Oxy, almost every single option that you get has a vegan or vegetarian option along with it. So it's super easy to either become one, or if you're like me, I just want to eat less meat overall. So instead of like pork, I'll just be like, oh, I'll take the jackfruit option. And it's like super accessible and it's super yummy. There's a diverse amount of foods that the marketplace, which is our main dining hall, prepares. I'll give a shout out to the green curry with jackfruit at Homestyle, as well as the nachos. I was telling JP yesterday that there was one time I missed the nachos at the MP, and I was like really sad about it. It was like, it was sad how sad I was about it, but yeah.
Yeah, and one, the food is just really good. The way it's made is awesome. Everything's sustainable, and you have vegan, vegetarian options, but it's also the variety of different foods, right? When it comes to different cultures, I've seen pad thai being served there. I'm Filipino and I love chicken adobo. That's been served there. We also have, like, every month or so, every Friday, we have like a theme, right? So there's Mardi Gras theme, there's Carnival theme where there's fried Twinkies, fried Oreos, there's Dodger game theme where they're selling Dodger dogs. It's a great place for food, not just on campus, but in LA, right? So yeah, I'm gonna really miss the marketplace this year for sure.
Yeah, I'm a huge marketplace fan. I'm not obligated to eat at the marketplace as a staff member. I voluntarily do it, and I love the sandwich bar. I love the huevos rancheros at the marketplace. So yeah, definitely huge shout out to the MP. Good question from Ella here. Do you all ever feel like the school is too small? Also, oh, it just went away. What was the second part? And okay, yeah. What did you wish you had known before going to Oxy? Jillian, do you want to start?
Yeah, I would say, disclaimer, I went to a relatively small high school, so I had 114 students in my graduating class, which is smaller than Oxy. But I don't find it to be too small at all. I think LA really helps to like push people out of campus so you don't feel like you're just seeing the same people all the time, even though you do, but it's like a welcome seeing them all the time. And even in my this past year, my junior year, I was still meeting new people, making really great friends. And the community itself, like we were saying before, everyone's just so nice. It's so easy just to meet new people. And because you have places to go, it doesn't feel that small or cramped.
And what's something that you wish you'd known before?
I'll let JP take that one.
Okay.
What I wish I didn't know before, I wish I knew that professors were people too. Right, because I feel like there's this weird thing where people are kind of intimidated to talk to their professors, but because I'm from a big public high school who just didn't try to reach out to my teachers, but now that I'm at Oxy, I really value my relationships with them. Right, I'm on a text by I can text my professors. I text them all the time. One of my professors asked for my address because he wanted to send me a book because I love reading books, and I just think that that's overlooked. Like people should know to reach out to people in college, right? What do you have to lose? Like we are away from home, we're at a new institution and at a small school. It's like, why not reach out to the people that are educating us and teaching us? Because, you know, they'll be writing recommendation letters. They'll be helping you get a job through connections and things like that. So I think I guess that's just my advice. I don't know if I answered that question properly, but that's how I interpreted that, and that's my advice. You know, go out there and just know that people are willing to help you, no matter who it is, the president of Oxy or a professor.
That's really helpful. And sort of related to that, Jillian, I guess, what type of student, if they're able to be characterized, do you think thrives at Oxy?
I think someone who wants to get involved in many different things that may not seem like they're connected, but they're connected because that student wants to be involved in all of them. I think you were mentioning before that Oxy students are very involved, and it's very rare to find someone that's not involved in something. And I think it's really, Oxy students just in general really want to make a difference as well. And like you can get involved, like for me, for example, I'm involved in research, but I'm also involved in a dance group. I'm also doing baking in one of my clubs, food again, sorry. And that's not atypical. And so I think a student that would thrive at Oxy is someone who wants to explore a variety of interests. And also, I guess in an academic setting as well, be courageous. That's a very strong word. But be courageous enough to speak with their peers, discuss with their professors, and form really close relationships with those around them.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I definitely coheres with kind of how I view successful Oxy students. JP, did you want to add something?
I was just going to say, I feel like a typical Oxy student is motivated and community driven, right? Like, yes, I am a biologist, but I will look at political issues, economic issues, and want to incorporate that in my life, right? Because I feel like Oxy has helped me want to become a more global citizen that cares about more than just my field. So
that's great. All right, so I think we are running out of time. I do want to end with what your favorite thing is about Oxy. So who wants to go first? I don't know if someone has a prepared answer or not. All right, Jillian.
Wait, sorry. I was trying to type in my contact info. What was the question?
Oh, what's your favorite thing about Oxy?
Oh, favorite thing about Oxy. Ugh, it's so cliche to say the community, but it's the community.
I
Like,
concur.
yeah, it's like, it's so like, oh my God, admissions force you to say that the community at Oxy is so amazing. But no, it's like so absolutely true that what makes Oxy Oxy is the people. And I've already like hammered this nail in like through the wall. But it doesn't matter what you're involved in, what you're going through, what your struggles are, where you're from. There will always be someone at Oxy, whether it's a student, a professor, staff member, community member that will be there to help you and to push you to be a better person and be a better student. And I think it's really helped me grow in so many different ways. And it's also just made the academic experience less stressful because I know that if I'm struggling in a class, I can reach out to my friends to study with me, or I can go to office hours and my professor will be like, yes, absolutely. Let's sit down for an hour and go through this question with you until you understand it. And like with advising for careers, like they want you to do well. They want you to push yourself to apply to those jobs and fellowships that you don't think that you can get. And I think that's just a really unique part of Oxy that I don't think that you can get anywhere else. Just the supportive community is my favorite thing. Absolutely.
Honestly, you just nailed that. So I don't really know what else to add other than like me and other people. I have my own personal friend groups, my really close friend groups, but I think the fact that if I see Jill giving a tour or if I see Jill studying in the library, I will always make it a point to be like, hey, Jill, what's up? Because that is just what Oxy is all about. And that is my favorite thing. Again, the community, right? Seeing admissions officers who aren't even my fellow students, I get excited, because it's like, oh, what's up, y'all? Hey, Jordan. What's up? Hey, Robin. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Courtney. And it's just special family. And it's not just peer to peer. It's student to faculty, student to admissions officer, student to staff, right? It's an all around community that I just have come to appreciate. And I'm not being paid to say that. Like I will say that I'll say that wholeheartedly, straight up. I'll look right into the camera and say that.
No, yeah. Well, thank you both for those responses. And as an alum, I'm not going to re-say what you both said, but that's exactly how I feel. So you captured my sentiments again as an alum, and I have so much pride when I think about the people associated with Occidental. So thank you both, not only for your responses, but also for helping us out with the information session. Thank you all to our visitors watching. I know you took time away to watch our information session, so hopefully that was helpful. I know you all were a really engaged group with your questions, so thank you for that. Charlie put in a link about the student chat and virtual office hours, so I would definitely encourage everyone to check those out. And thank you all again. Bye.
Good luck, everyone. Feel free to contact me and Jill. We're just in quarantine, so.
Thanks, everyone.